everyone, and welcome to the fourth in the series that I have been hosting for members to get to know me a little bit better, and issues that pertain to standards-based grading, high school issues, middle school challenges, primary school. We talked to the parish yesterday. And today I have with me Kelly Douglas, the acting staff development officer and also the chairperson of the standards-based grading steering committee. And we wanted to use some time today. I wanted to use time to talk to members in regards to standards-based grading and where the Bermuda public school system is going in regards to that, but in particular what I need to know and be aware of, be cognizant of in my quest to hopefully lead out or be one of the leaders of the Bermuda Union of Teachers in regards to standards-based grading, because it's going to affect all of our members. So no member is going to be exempt from SBG touching them in some way, shape, or form, whether you are in primary, middle, and of course, even the paras, right? That's going to have some effect. We do not have standards-based grading in high schools as yet, but it might become a reality. So all of our conversation today is going to center around standards-based grading and how that will affect union members and what the union can potentially do to help their members to learn this new initiative and then enact it in the class. So thank you, Kelly, for being here. Can you just tell us, the listeners, a little bit about what standards-based grading is and where we're going and where we are currently with that initiative in Bermuda?
All right. So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for Tanisha for inviting me this afternoon to talk about standards-based grading. It's the buzzword, I hope, in everyone's mouth, in every school, every leader, and every teacher. So standards-based grading is it's a philosophy of teaching and learning. The beauty and the benefit of standards-based grading is that it makes sure or ensures that we are across schools, for primary, middle school right now, ensuring that teachers, in terms of a teaching and learning, are moving students towards progressing towards mastery or proficiency of the standards. And those are those objectives or learn objectives that lie within the curriculum document. And so it's a system that the tool that we're using is the proficiency scale. So all our talk, all our professional development is around this specific tool, and it's a really, really powerful tool. It puts all our content and skills and learning progressions. It makes sure, it ensures that we are math for science, English, and foreign language and social studies, that we are concentrating on the fundamentals, so those prerequisites that are going to move us to our target goal, but it also considers those students that can go beyond the target goal level. And so you are just laser focused on those content and skills. The skills have been vertically and horizontally aligned, so those skills right from P1 to AM3 have been looked at, and the teams that created these proficiency skills made sure that they were aligned. The big nuggets, the enduring understandings, those things that are really important for students to know, and so that students will leave out of the Bermuda public education system right up to the senior level with a strong and solid foundation in these content areas. And so it really has the propensity to really transform education. We're going to be uncomfortable for a bit because it is a lot of planning. The nuances around it have a lot to do with the scoring, so it's nothing like traditional scoring, thank goodness. But it really gives us an accurate reflection of the performances of our students around concepts and skills, and that's what we want, right? I want to know that when my child leaves from one year level to the next, that those concepts and skills that they are supposed to learn, that they learn, or that the teacher has given credence to it in the classroom during instruction. And I want to know what they are being challenged with, what things they're doing well, and next steps. So the scale, it's really, really powerful in that way. It's not about a score anymore, right? It's not about those points that are earned. It's really about what students have learned. And that's just a more powerful and meatier message as a parent, as a godparent, as an aunt, in terms of really supporting our young people.
And not only that level of support, but talk a little bit about how that factors in Plan 2022, and that being that 70%, because I don't know if a lot of teachers know that by in that actual document that 70% of our students have to be at a school level 3 or proficient by that time. And so it's not just a matter of implementing this initiative, but there are actually qualitative and quantitative goals around that particular initiative. So speak a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that's 70%. Yeah, it's real. It's real that 2022 70%. And so right now, while even though we may not have officers in our midst, we actually do have scales, and we do have common assessments, and people can choose to use some of those common assessments, and even ones that are created by teachers, actually to move students towards proficiency or towards mastery of those goals. So right at the campus site, like I said, we might not necessarily be able to do it across in terms of the Bermuda public school system in a major way, because we may not have certain processes in place. So there's not certain measures that will define maybe that 70%, but at the school campus site, absolutely. Part of the standards-based learning environment is actually students tracking their progress. And we may not be there yet, so it's early days, but tracking their progress means that, you know what, for this particular concept or skill, this is where I am, but this is where I'm going. And 3 is the place that every student wants to be. 3 is the place that every teacher wants their student to be. All right. And so we're constantly moving towards that goal. And so even in your class, I've seen some great stuff going on in some classes that have been shared by my colleagues in terms of student teachers really taking on this concept of pre-assessing. And this is not the new in teacher language, right? Pre-assessing and really finding out, engaging what students do at the beginning of the unit. And we're seeing some progress in terms of teachers being really focused on those concepts and skills on the scale, and moving students through all those levels and coming up with some great outcomes already. And so that's what we want for everybody. We're not there yet, right? We're not there yet. So there needs to be lots of more training around teaching and learning. So that is where we are. The proficiency scale is only a tool. All right. And yes, it standardizes, what we're doing from year level to year level, or from in schools when we have double streams. So the classes should really, the interpretation for the most part should be the same, but really it comes down to the teaching and the learning around math, around science. They all have their different language, right? And so that's really where we are. We are into the teaching and learning phase, and we're going to be uncomfortable for a bit, right? Some of us may look at the scales and wonder, oh, I didn't know about this last year. And that's all right, because sometimes with a curriculum document, they're so huge and vague, sometimes you can't really pinpoint, or interpretations are different from one teacher to the next, right? And so now the proficiency scale has really standardized that and given us a common language in terms of the concepts and skills around those content areas.
So using all of that information and considering all of that, and I'm trying to put it within a union perspective, like teachers knowing that there's the expectations around the scales and around the 70% and the school level 3. Most of the work for that is done in the classroom, right? Everything that we need to do to get children to this level is what that classroom teacher is doing in front of them every lesson, every day, right? And so let's talk a little bit about what do you think would be because Kelly and I are both union members, even though Kelly's the officer, these are 2 BUT members talking. What do you think would be one of the main remit of the union in helping its members to be better positioned to deliver this standards-based instruction? Because it's already challenging within the school day, and for them trying to live up to those expectations is new learning, is heavy lifting, and all of those things. What could we do as a union to help our teachers to be better equipped with the disposition, with the pedagogy, all of those things to deliver?
Yeah, absolutely. And so one of the things definitely would be more professional development and training. And so there's a team of 10 collectively, or 12 of us on this standards-based steering committee. And there are only really 4 that have the privilege of everyday kind of living in professional development for how much teachers are we really training? Is a lot. And so the continued support around, the continued support around professional development is needed. So there are things beyond what we're doing that if the union could support this particular team with. it would be a great thing and a catapult. Like I said, you kind of have to hear the narratives and the stories and the learning lots of times. They have to be reiterated over and over and over. If you think of how students learn in the classroom, it's not just a one-shot thing. And I know in the spaces that I am in, Tanisha, I always say that, meaning it's all right to be uncomfortable and it's all right to struggle through. We're very much like learners in the classroom at this phase, but there is a silver lining. We will get better, we will get stronger, we will build this stamina around that. And so just that support, even, when we have the AGMs, you kind of really have to be nice if the executive themselves can buy into it, right? Because they meet with a smaller body, but then they have occasions where they're meeting with the bigger body. So really just promoting the beauty and the benefit of it would be important. So, Tamisha, I'm glad that you're running, and I claim victory for you on that day. But she will be a voice on that, prayerfully on that executive team that actually has the know-how, the knowledge, in the application. And so she would actually be very valuable. I'm not trying to put in a plug for you, but that would be needed anyway, right? If none of us was on that team, just kind of having a voice for standards-based learning. It is new and not everyone understands it. And it's really hard to kind of just flip your script. We've been living in traditional grading for a very, very long time. And so the mind shift or the paradigm shift in terms of grades for communication and non-compensation, it's not necessarily an easy sell to our teachers, let alone to probably students and parents, right? And so we need everyone's narrative to be strong, right? If we all bond together, right, in solidarity, in terms around the communication of what a standards-based learning environment can do for the Bermuda public school system, we need you to be advocates, right? We need the union to be advocates. So each and every teacher, right to the executive, the president, and the vice president, if we're all speaking with one voice and positivity, and don't worry about what it looks like right now. Teaching's always been messy. So that's what you signed up for anyway. But we are shifted into something that it is new. But it's a great thing. The benefits of it will outweigh all this feeling of angst and stress. We will get there. And the big part of it is that we will potentially close gaps. All right. And that's what we need to do. We need to stop the dropout rate at the senior level in terms of, because students just can't cope because they don't have basic fundamental understandings around math and science and all those content areas. Now is the time. I say it in every workshop. When you know better, you do better. And it doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but together we can do it.
Yeah, a few years ago, I came, when I was serving on the executive before, the whole idea that the union should stand on two legs. One is unionism and the other is professional development, right? And the reason why I really feel strongly about that, we talked about this in yesterday's session, is because if you can ensure the quality of the teachers that you have, you don't have to spend your time defending them, because you can definitely say, I know that I have the best and the brightest out there. And I just always felt that we could do a better job as a union in making sure that we had the best trained teachers. And that's definitely something that I am interested in, probably more than any of the other things, is trying to help to almost re-professionalize our membership to make sure that the skills that they have are commensurate with the skills we need. If we're moving into a system, not just standards-based grading, standards-based instruction, but more of a constructivist type environment where children are able to come up with the knowledge and they question and they think and they push back. Well, we have to have teachers that know how to facilitate that type of instruction. And so for me, it's always been a matter of how could that organization use its resources to better assist its members to be the best and the brightest, right?
Absolutely.
And so it's never been the idea that we should, there are times in which you need to absolutely, there's times for the social groups. There's times that, we don't agree with the ministry and don't always see eye to eye. I get all of those times too. But I am a strong believer that if we are equipped with the knowledge, skills, and dispositions to be effective in our job, if the disposition, let's talk about that. The disposition, let alone, will help when we get a lot of negative pushback from parents, or you don't like the child, you're not a nice teacher, blah, blah, blah. But what's your temperament like for teaching anyway, right? Do you actually want to be one? And do you want to be a good one? And do you want to be a kind one? So even having workshops and professional development about how you create the temperament and the disposition. I mean, I know before I graduated from college, we had to take a temperament test. That was part of our training, right? And assessment literacy, for example, when we're moving into an SBG world, teachers need assistance around that. They need assistance around quality instructional practices. All of those things, planning and preparation, those things they need more support in. And I think that our membership in the meeting this morning, one of the people had wrote in, they wanted to know what happened with union dues and what's been and I'm thinking, well, one of the things we could be using is to resource teachers around professional development and make sure that they are the best trained that we have. So standards-based grading, though we have the title and the name, at the end of the day, it's about teaching and learning. It's nothing else. It comes with this little package, but it is about teaching and learning. And our membership definitely has to be well equipped to be good teachers, so our students can be brilliant learners. And that is, even if you took the acronym SBG away. But another thing that you mentioned about the executive and them becoming more familiar with SBG over the summer, during my even before the summer last year, I had written into the executive under the Schoolhouse Heroes, which is a PD company that I have, to ask if they can send some members. I was willing to take some executive members into the training pro bono so that they can come and they can learn about it, so they can, so they can help to allay the members' fears, when they come for the training. The union was very good in which they took me up on that, in that they extended that offer to some of the members. So that was cool, but there's one-shot deals, whether it's me as a consultant. I'm not trying to promote the business. I'm saying that we need quality PD, and that not all the time can teachers afford to go overseas. And they have a program at the union right now where you can write in for PD. But I'm talking about more consistent resources that teachers can then take advantage of, because quality teaching and learning and the expectation about that's not going away, right? So how do we make sure all the time that our members are the best trained?
Absolutely. And let's recognize as well, Tamisha, that we also have some capacity here in the areas of those content areas, right? And so I think what you're saying as well, sometimes local and when it's quality professional development, you can't beat that, right? Because you have a face, you can contact them easily. I mean, this is Bermuda, it's 22 square miles as it is.
And the cultural, interaction.
The connection, but also the support piece is actually really, really, and follow-up is really, important. And so, we have to build intellectual capacity, and we have to also build capacity around not just our leaders. I call really old teachers leaders, but in terms of also not, being a risk taker in terms of putting themselves out there to be professional developers, right? And so that is something that they can, in terms of, everyone's got something to give, right? I don't teach math. I could teach science for you, but I know that there are some persons out there within the schools, primary and middle school, that, have it going on in terms of those math skills or whatever. And it's, we need to, as members, guys, we need to collaborate. I have said it in many spaces that just because Tamisha may be doing well in her class or another teacher doing well in her class, it's, when we're looked at as the Bermuda public school system, they don't talk about Tamisha, we are clumped into one. And so when it's not enough for just one of us to shine, it's about all of us shining, and we can do that if we are collaborative, if we are willing to share our expertise and not just holding on to our resources, rather the tangible resources, intellectual capacity, but now is the time, right? That we really need to, and so that there's common planning times that we have are great times that we can get together and really hash out and talk. And so I just guess overall, when it comes to the union, those persons that are in front, like that, the executive team, is really also important. And I know, not everyone is really on the standards-based grading train right now, because we're only working with core, right? So we may have some on that executive team that are on core, but knowledge you can hold on to, right? You can hold on to it. You might not be living in the application world right now, but knowledge you can hold on to. And it's a cliche to say knowledge is power, but the more that you know and the more that you can understand about it, you really will see the beauty and the benefits. You will struggle through some of the nuances that just seem like insurmountable at this time. This is just for a moment, right, we will get past it, and it is for the betterment of the Bermuda public school system as a whole. I just want us all shine together, right?
I think one of the main takeaways is the executive having the knowledge so that they can allay fears of its members, so that when if someone's calling to say, you know, oh, I have to do this or grade to do or whatever it is, so that they have it might be a bona fide level of consternation about, but if you have availed yourself to know the answers, you don't have to be in an adversarial position, right? So you can help to kind of quash or quell some of the level of anxiety, right? So if they're looking to us as leaders also have to know how to filter. You have to know how to buffer. You don't always want to be blown, what I call, with every wind and doctrine, right? You want you know what it is that your team, and I mean that meaning the team of teachers, are going through. You hear the noise and the rumbling, so all you do is avail yourself to the knowledge to help to fix it. It's not that you have to stoke or feed the fire. Sometimes you can just quench the fire because you've availed yourself to that information. So that's something that's really important as we move into standards-based grading, and I hope that the membership will benefit from if I am elected to the vice president or recording secretary position. I really want to be that voice around that table that is really going to speak truth to power when it comes to being very I don't want to use the word level-headed because that kind of sounds.
Well, you're grounded in a lot of philosophy and principles.
Because I know a lot about standards-based grading and helping to lead this team that will serve this team with SBG. I think it'll help us as we go through this transition period, right? Because any new initiative is difficult at first, but if you've got someone around the table who can help to guide you through it and say, no, this is actually why this is happening, and this is why that's happening, I think it'll help our teachers and put them in a really good position, and also availing myself to be that contact person that they can always pick up the phone and say, this is what's happening, is this appropriate, even when it comes to union type things. Because one thing that you haven't touched on that we did earlier today, yesterday in the primary and middle session, was the heavy lifting around planning for SBG. And so we know that we have that 200-minute threshold in our CBA when it comes to planning and what teachers are entitled to. But recognizing that, having been a member of the negotiating team for 2 years, I have been advocating for additional planning for the last 2 years so that we can have that prep time, because the heavy lifting for standards-based grading is here. It is not all of the other things standing in front of the copier and all of those things downloaded from Pinterest and all of those things. Those things are fine too every now and then, but we know that all of our practices have to be aligned to the scale. And so if we're making sure that whatever it is that we're downloading is aligned to the scale and it is research-based and it is pedagogically sound, then I say fire away. But I say all that to say that the planning around standards-based grading and even the thinking around scoring is a lot for teachers. And that might be one whole prep period. You might have taken 5 minutes to mark their exams, but the thinking around the scoring and the philosophy around the multiple opportunities is a big deal. It's something that teachers have to think about. So I just wanted to be able to tell teachers that standards-based grading is here to stay. I actually believe it has the potential, like Kelly, to revolutionize teaching and learning in Bermuda. It's going to be slow going, but we can do it. We can do it, but what we need is people that's going to strongly advocate for the resources that we need. And until we get them, or along the journey of getting them, I think that that's something that our organization should provide, right? Professional development that's going to further strengthen teachers' capacity around standards-based grading so that we can all be in a better place. And I think that once we hold each other's hand while we're in the journey and not get caught up in adversarial type stances around SBG, because it's here to stay, right? I think that will build our membership well.
And just one thing else I would probably add in terms of how the BUT, and I'm talking about the smaller executive team, as we move into professional development. And I'm going to go back. There's a Facebook, I guess, chat that a few of the members of the SBG steering committee are a part of. And it's funny, right? Because everyone's kind of going through this back and forth. How you do this? Anyone got scales with this? And a lot of questions around scoring, all the nuances. So it just lets us know that, maybe we're right where we are in the formative stages, and it's a bit messy and uncomfortable. And, people comment on what some people have to say in terms of incorrectness or and things like that. So I say that there's lots of different, I wouldn't say philosophies on standards-based grading, but this body, the standards-based steering committee, does their research. So one of the things that I would also advocate for, Tamisha, is, and like I said, prayerfully, if you're there, is terms of consulting with the SBG steering committee in terms of some of those things. I mean, we see some of the needs, we just know them to be true because we've had enough conversations with teachers and we're in the training, and we can make those observations. But it's also nice to come back to this body as well and ask questions in terms of some of those professional learning needs, and just making sure that, for example, if we're bringing training from the inside out or something overseas, that it's in line with some of the place where we are, right? Because it really depends, right? There's lots of different workshops, but there's lots of different workshops on SPG, but it depends really where you kind of are in the journey. So just being, you understand? So at this point, we're not necessarily in proficiency scale creation, but guess what? There's another group, the Onward group, that hasn't. So, that I'm just saying, just let's make sure that the professional development is centered towards our needs. And it's a reputable, trainer comment. I know we've been using Jen Ho and Marzano. And there's some variation across districts internationally in terms of how they are transitioning and implementing. So we just want to do everything in decency and order. So it's just
aligning,
just kind of aligning, right? Not just saying, oh, hey, they said let's do SBG and provide professional development, and then just go out and kind of be willy-nilly about it. We're here, we're open, we're always willing to talk with the BUT and the membership. And so just making sure that, we keep things aligned. I think it's a good opportunity in terms of
when it comes to the conference too. I know a few people have reached out to me to say, was there anything, they thought I was still doing it, was there anything for SBG? And I think it's important that whatever's going on in BPSS, we work for Bermuda Public School System. And I think it's important that our union are constantly putting our members in places and spaces so that they can have the practices aligned with wherever it is that BPSS is going. So Plan 2022 and knowing and providing support for our members specifically around that, for example, is important. So our conference and our workshop should always align back to where it is that where we're trying to go, right? Because this is our daily work. So it shouldn't be that, it's fine to learn about union stuff in those places, but there has to be a balance because teachers are then going right back and working in that environment. Absolutely. And they're no better because of it, right? Their children are no better because they haven't been able to take what they've learned and implement it right away. And SPG, as I said earlier, Kelly said, I mentioned, it's here to stay. It is where we are. I would think probably for the next 4 to 5 years, our system will still be going through transition. Absolutely. We will definitely not be positioned to say that we are full-fledged and everyone is 100% comfortable, and it's a journey. And so I think the position of the union in regards to SBG while we're on this journey is to equip its members with what it needs to be successful and aligning our priorities with the things that are necessary for them to be successful. Yep. So any final comments that you wanted to leave about SBG, or anything that you think that I need to consider as a potential VP that I always need to keep in the front of my mind? Or
No, I think we've kind of said it all, but I like I said, the main thing is that if we stick together, right? I think if we stick together, if we work together, if we are willing to shift our mind from what we used to do as the standard, right? Yeah. And understand that we owe it to our young people that when they leave out of the Bermuda public school system, and I'm going to use a term that's traditional, that an A is an A or a B is a B. It's about accuracy around what our students can do, right? And it's really striving for them to move towards mastery of the standard. If we all keep that focus, it's about mastering the standards, yeah, and we're moving them towards that. Whether they're a struggling learner, whether they're not, we will be all right, yeah. We will be all right. We owe it to our young people. We owe it to our young people. We owe them the very, very best. They will be competing with persons coming in the country for jobs, and maybe they might decide to go out. And we need to allow them not just to be competitive, but be well-rounded and be grounded, right, in some fundamental stuff. This in this game called education, yeah. And so that will probably be my last and final thing in terms of the union. So this work is really, really important. We do not take it lightly with the Standard Space Grading Steering Committee, and it will stay. It must remain. It must be sustained and maintained. Because it will pay dividends. I saw it in an article. I thought it was so great. They talked about the journey, a newspaper article, and the country seems to be moving along with it. I think they might be 5 years strong into their standards-based learning for this particular district. And the things that we're going through, they talked about their earlier journey. And basically, but at the end of that article said, but the dividends, the benefits of it, they said outweighed anything or discomfort that they experienced in the beginning. So let's keep moving. Let's keep moving with it. Yeah.
So Kelly, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
For joining me today. I hope that the members can benefit from today's conversation in regards to what the union can be doing to better position teachers to embrace the initiative and become more proficient around standards-based instruction and the practices and philosophies of standards-based grading. I would encourage you to listen out a little bit more in regards to standards-based grading. It's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. And I hope that I have the opportunity as the vice president to be able to help us along in this journey, because we need each other. We have to work together. And I think that we do have the potential to support each other. We just have to stick to the wicket, right? So thank you so much. And remember that you can view this video on YouTube if you're not currently watching it on YouTube. Also, the other series for the forums for primary schools, for paraprofessionals, and also for high schoolers, we have also recorded. So we hope to see you along the journey, and that you would definitely consider voting for me for Vice President of Bermuda Union of Teachers. Thank you.